Our most popular episode to date is our Business Model Canvas podcast. We briefly covered each of the 9 building blocks of the Business Model Canvas in that podcast. In response to many requests from our audience, we are providing 9 podcast episodes addressing each building block separately in greater depth. The Business Model Canvas, developed by Alexander Osterwalder, is a template often used to develop ideas and a monetization strategy for a startup venture. This episode is the second of 9 and will cover key activities.
Our Favorite Tools for Entrepreneurs podcast addresses tools and concepts that are useful for the launch and growth of entrepreneurial ventures. Your 2 hosts will be Professor Gary Palin and serial entrepreneur Ryan Budden.
Good morning, Professor Palin. How are you?
Good morning. How are you doing today?
Couldn't complain. Hey, we're here for the second round of the Business Model Canvas to talk about key activities today.
Excellent. Again, a very important aspect of the Business Model Canvas.
Just a quick overview of key activities. What are the core business activities that it takes to get the product to the customer? Think revenue streams, customer relationships, distribution channels.
So you're creating value for your customers and generating revenue.
Brilliant. Love it. I can tell you've talked to many people about the Business Model Canvas to have it as succinct as that.
Well, I use it very often in my class. Every semester, we use it in every class. That tends to be one of the key components or tools that we use as we're developing various business models.
Great. How do you frame starting to put something in this square? Like when you're sitting down with your students, what's the initial thought that gets people generating content here?
I will typically start off by having them thinking either operational or strategic.
Okay.
So operationally, we look at things like manufacturing, marketing, distribution activities, and then strategic are things like product development, partnerships, and branding.
That makes a lot of sense. For me, this is always, what are the roadblocks? What are the hurdles you're going to have to jump over as a business? Because this is defining what you can't do without.
Yes, and it's areas that you're working on a daily basis.
Yeah, that's another good way of phrasing it.
What are some of the examples that you can think of when you're analyzing key activities?
I always think about the core business facets, marketing, sales, the leadership team. What's the good and how is that good being finished? So whether it's a product or a service, development being a big part of that. So how are you handling those and what's required?
Yeah, I would agree, like research and development being areas, all of your marketing and sales. Also, customer service is another activity that you have to focus on.
Yep, can't believe I didn't say that. Customer service being probably the biggest if you have any sort of service industry.
And then if you're a manufacturing company, that's very important. That'll be a daily activity.
Mm-hmm. That and quality control if you're manufacturing. It's a big one that people often get later on in the business model canvas before they come and put back here. How many times have we all gotten products that aren't exactly right? And how much does that tarnish your view of the company that you've just purchased from?
Exactly. The manufacturing, there's logistics and distribution, even if the distribution is online distribution.
That's right.
That can tend to get a little more technical and clunky when you're doing online distribution, which you and I are doing with the Janus assessment. We've had some interesting dilemmas in working that through.
Yeah, exactly. Technology companies or technology startups will face very similar things, small nuances that you don't think are key activities that you're going to deal with every single day that can be extremely disruptive when they go down, as we've experienced. You have to prioritize those things. And I think that's what this box really accentuates for you. What is the priority? What do you need to make sure it functions every single day?
And human resources is another key activity that you have to look at on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
Another that's very important, and neither you nor I, it's our favorite, but it's financial management.
Yes, absolutely. Through my consultancy, being involved with tons and tons of teams, and the ones that have a core financial person that's included in key decision-making processes, it's amazing how much more smoothly the organization runs, rather than people that are the visionary that are pushing key activities and then sort of back checking with a financial person.
And we've talked many times in the past, but if you're not managing your cash flow as a key activity in your business, you have a problem.
Yeah. Or you're soon to have a problem. It's not going to go well for very long.
Yeah, that's difficult to hide from a cash flow problem.
Mm-hmm. The last area that I always try and have people include in the phrasing when they're looking at key activities is revenue. So not defining price strategy, but just where is money coming in?
Where is it coming in and through what functionality is it coming through? And typically you're doing a lot of that functionality digitally, and you're using companies like Stripe, for example.
Yes. So making sure you know who they are and what they're specifically providing and what their limitations are.
And that relationship with your bank and the transfer of funds, you want to make it as seamless as possible for your customer.
That's exactly right.
Always make it easy for your customer to give money to you.
Yeah. Yeah, that can't be the hurdle or you're doing something wrong. It happens though. I mean, in daily life, you come across companies that you're just trying to pay them. You just want this to work smoothly, and somehow that's the hurdle. Modern day POS systems, hopefully that problem is disappearing quickly. But geez, sometimes it's the biggest headache.
Yeah, this goes way back before internet. I had a difficulty in paying sales tax to the state that I was doing business in at that time. But if I didn't pay the sales tax, they would fine me. That was loads of fun.
Yeah, of course, because the buck falls on you when it's anything to do with taxes.
Oh, absolutely. Well, are there any other issues with key activities that you think we should address before we wrap up?
This one's a pretty simple square. Ironically, it's one of the smaller boxes on the business model canvas. So I always find myself cramming a lot in that small box because it's a relatively important one.
Absolutely. And I always look at it from a perspective of, can I reduce costs and increase my efficiency while maintaining or improving quality of products and services delivered to the consumer?
Brilliant. Love that.
Sounds like a game plan.
Talk to you soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, Ryan.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to our Favorite Tools for Entrepreneurs podcast. As always, you can head over to ProfSpirit.com to check out more resources and courses designed for you, the entrepreneur. Please follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube, and others to get the most up-to-date information as it is released.